The lofty 7:14 p.m. I'm sorry for the tardiness. All right, we had back-to-back emergencies, but will the host please introduce himself or herself? Hello?
Hi, Judith Benitez.
Yes.
I'm hosting as far as recording is concerned, but this is your meeting, Robert.
Okay. This is the Wellness People on White Plains Road.
The Well Life Network. I
Well,
believe
yeah.
Sherry Tucker and Karen Gorman are on.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Miss Tucker.
Yes, okay.
Hi.
Sherry Tucker is the CEO of the Well Life Network, and I will turn it over to her to discuss our project. I am Willie Scott, the Vice President of Public Affairs, and I will turn it over to our CEO, Sherry Tucker.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm suffering from some laryngitis, so I'm going to turn it over to Karen Gorman so you can hear her better.
Okay.
Evening.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Karen Gorman. I'm the Vice President of Property Management and New Program Development at Well Life Network. And I'm joined with Sherry Tucker, who's our CEO, and Willie Scott, who introduced himself. And we're here to talk a little bit about 3663 White Plains Road in your community, and
Okay.
just to kind of talk a little bit about potential development for affordable and supportive housing there.
We're getting a lot of feedback here. Go ahead.
So I guess I can just start by talking a little bit about Well Life Network. We're a nonprofit organization based in Flushing, Queens, but we provide services in all the boroughs and on Long Island. Currently, we provide mental health and developmental disabilities housing in the boroughs and Long Island, which consists of the full continuum of care, which is 24-hour, 7-day-a-week supervision in housing, all the way through just regular supportive housing, which is light touch, just some housing case management services and a rental subsidy. So what we were recently approached with the site at White Plains Road, 3663 White Plains Road, which is a Catholic Church property, or property that owned by the Catholic Church, that's for sale and is zoned for affordable housing.
I hear it.
And prior to, one of our first steps when we develop these types of housing developments is to kind of get in touch with the local community and get an understanding of what you think the needs are there prior to us kind of deciding what we think the needs are, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So Willie was kind enough to set up this meeting with you and let us get.
I can't hear.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and set up this opportunity to kind of just have a dialogue about what your thoughts are on the property, and if there's anything in particular that you think the community needs or would benefit from that maybe Well Life Network could be helpful in achieving for this site.
Can everybody hear? How can I hear?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear.
Alfredo, we can hear.
Yeah. Before you go any further, could you be specific on the 36, the address? What street is that precisely?
So it's actually two streets the site is at. It's 3663 White Plains Road and 3642 Willett Avenue.
Okay.
It's the St. John Nam Catholic Church and Rectory.
Go ahead.
So right now, what we're looking at the site, just some preliminary discussions with our architecture team is basically that it's set up to have approximately 130 apartments there of all different bedroom counts. We're looking at 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms, and studios, in addition to some community space on the first floor that We have yet to determine what that's going to look like. It could simply be well life programming, well life staffing and programming there, or it could be, an opportunity for us to kind of hear what the community board or folks in the neighborhood would like to see there. And if we can help kind of get that there, we'd be happy to do that. We would most likely look to create this building to be 50% affordable and 50% supportive. And the supportive population would be determined again with input from the community. So the state, New York State and New York City provide lots of options for folks with different types of disabilities or challenges in housing. And if there is a particular group that we think could be better served on White Plains Road, we'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are. And just kind of talk a little bit about what your thoughts are in general about affordable and supportive housing in your community. We're very much in the preliminary stage here, so we're really kind of looking for feedback and input from you folks and from the people that you represent in your neighborhoods before we kind of move forward with this.
Hi, I've got a couple of things that I'd like to bring up. I'm Luke Sabados. I am on the committee, and I am personally somebody who has benefited from affordable housing lotteries, and I can say it is a life changer. Especially during COVID, having a safe space where you can quarantine if you need to. Not in a crammed apartment, which is what a lot of people are encountering these days. And with rent increases going up astronomically, I think this is something that's a really great thing for our community, especially as a lot of people, find that they might have to leave because rent increases are going up. So that's why, I support affordable housing. And I also want to just if I can, say that one thing that a lot of times the board disagrees on different matters when it comes to how much affordable, how much parking spaces we need when we do developments. But one thing that the borough president noted in just one of our recent votes for affordable housing is that the borough president thinks that we need more family housing. A lot of these housing developments that we're building, because we have to do a lot of compromises or whatever we have to do, they end up being a bunch of studio and 1-bedroom apartments. But we need housing for 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom here in the Bronx and in our neighborhoods. So that the families that live here can stay here and don't have to squeeze into tiny apartments. So if I can make any suggestion, is to try to see how much we can maximize some of the apartment sizes for families who want to stay and live here.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of our model that we're looking at on this site is that typically we're looking at the studio units to be for the folks that need some extra supports, and then 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms and a few 1-bedroom units would be for the community lottery units. So I agree. I think Well Life is on the same page with that we do recognize that more units with multiple bedrooms are certainly.
I cannot hear. You know what? I'm leaving.
Ursula Green, you have a question?
Hey, yeah, I'm sorry. My computer have froze. 2 questions. Do you need anything from the board, or are you as of right?
It is as of right.
Okay, and where did you say where you're getting your funding from?
So the funding comes from a few different areas, and we actually on this site have options. It could be New York City HPD funding, or it could be New York State HFA funding. The same goes for the supportive units. We can either do New York State subsidy or New York City subsidy. but either way, it will be a state or city funded project, utilize, with some low income housing tax credits funding as well.
Is there a projected completion date?
No, we're not that far yet. We're really in the preliminary planning for this site. And like I said earlier, one of our first things to do is really engage with the neighborhood first and see how everybody feels about it. So we're really kind of early on in the pre-development phase, and so probably not for another 2 or 3 years, if I were to guess.
Okay, and I know that Luke kind of sidewinded this, but we got to get to the parking aspect because that's why Mr. Figueroa had to get off. All right, that's going to be his question anyway. What is the parking circumstances as far as your projections are concerned?
Candidly, we haven't drilled down that far on the site yet, but generally all of our developments include parking, and we try to stay within the code for the apartments and parking requirements. But I can get back to you on that. If we do move forward with this, we're happy to kind of come back and talk to you throughout our development process and talk about parking. Is parking a concern in the community there?
Always.
Okay.
Always.
Okay.
Anything else, Ted James?
Yes, Dr. I'm sorry, but I wanted to find out if there was consideration given to keeping the church. I know in that area, 3663 White Plains Road, we've just had 2 other housing buildings going up within the last maybe 5 or 6 years, which has really completely transformed that White Plains corridor. So I was wondering if there was any consideration at all given to preserving the church and preserving that landmark, and maybe just keeping a little bit more religious buildings in that community, which I think we do need in White Plains Road.
So my answer to that is just that I know that the Catholic Church is selling it. So it's ultimately up to them, I guess, and I don't think it's part of their plan to keep the church. So someone will buy it at some point, I'm sure. And I don't know. My guess would be if someone were to buy it, they're not going to keep it a church, unfortunately.
So you have not actually acquired the properties yet?
No, we're in the preliminary development plans on this site right now.
Okay. Ms. Benitez?
Yeah, my question is, what kind of landscaping are you going to do for that property? Is it going to be minimal, barely, nothing, or what?
So landscaping and green space is really important to Wildlife Network. We have a site that we're very close to completing on Cypress Avenue in Queens right now that has really as much landscaping as possible on the site. And that we have a green roof and we have some green space on the upper floors, but we also have quite a bit of landscaping and parking down on the ground level. And I know Sherry is having a hard time talking today, but she's our CEO and our leader and our resident green thumb who makes sure that all of our buildings look beautiful and are beautifully landscaped. And it's really an important priority for us in developing housing, that it's not just a brick building, that it looks beautiful, that there's greenery, that there's, as much natural living things around it as possible.
What about solar roofing?
Yeah, so a big piece of what we have to do for development now is that everything needs to be energy efficient. Our buildings have solar panels. They're set up with now there's rules around all electric construction. So generally, like in our Cypress Avenue apartment, all of those units have split systems, so they have heat and air conditioning units in each building that are run via electric. which is very efficient and cost effective for the folks that live there. And it gives everybody, you know, there's one in every room, so you can regulate your heat and your air conditioning as you wish. So that would be a piece of this. That's how we would develop this site, as well as, you know, energy efficient appliances and any other, you know, we use special insulation to insulate windows and doors to create as efficient a building as possible, and try to use all those green measures.
Okay, Ursula? Ursula Green, you have the
Hey,
floor.
I'm sorry, I got computer problems tonight. So do you have any idea when you plan on purchasing?
We're in discussions with the owners right now to purchase it.
All right, do you have any plans or anything, any drawings that you can email me?
We don't have any preliminary plans at this point, but I can, as soon as we do, I can share with you. I can tell you this, that our preliminary analysis indicates an 8-story building, which I think is on par with the buildings nearby. And we'll have community or retail or program space on the first floor with residential units above and parking. So I could, but once we get to a place, and if we get to a place of design, we'll be happy to share it with the community board for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Luke, you have a question before I go?
Sure. Yes. I was wondering, you know, this site is very close to the Gun Hill, East Gun Hill 2 and 5 train station. And I know that the MTA has this new law, or the city has a new law, where if you're building a development adjacent to an MTA station, you have to do accessibility improvements. I was wondering if this site will qualify or will be required to, or if you're taking advantage of those of that program.
That's a great question. I think we certainly have to work with the Metro North on this site because it's very close to the elevated Metro North train tracks. I don't know, like, it's generally those improvements are related to the amount of feet the site is from the train station or from the MTA station. And our preliminary analysis indicates that we're not close enough to require that, but we can double check that just to make sure.
Okay, because, you know, I know that, you know, the Gun Hill station does have elevators, but everybody on this call probably knows that they're out half the time and they spend months doing the escalators. So if any accessibility improvements that could be made would be great. Thanks.
I'm going to write that down. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Benitez, and then Ursula.
Okay. There was something in the chat in reference to, could you consider putting spaces in for bike parking?
Yes. Parking, bike storage you mean in the building or outside of the building?
I would say, well, maybe both. I think both.
So bike storage is always a part of building code now. Any new construction buildings have to have a certain amount of square footage set up specifically for bike storage. So we'd certainly do that. But if bike storage or a bike rack or something like that in the community would be interested in with the building, we'd certainly, that seems like a no-brainer that we would do that for sure. But, you know, we can kind of talk more about what other maybe outside improvements could be made in that spot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Ursula had a question, Bob.
Yeah, go ahead, Ursula.
No, I'm good. I thought I lowered my hand. I'm good.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. All right. I don't know about that assessment with the train stations. You know, I know you have to be adjacent. I don't think that affects this particular projective project, but that remains to be seen. But you still can take notes from what is going on around you in order to better give us an idea of what what you're really bringing to the table. It would be gracious. You know, I'm just going to mention, and I don't want to beat it over the head. I know Alfredo Figueroa got off the call, but his main, Steve, and it does with everyone, is parking. Parking is a monumental need. It's urgently necessary that be given a high priority, okay, as you go forward. So, anyone else? Don't be shy. Who else is on? Ashley Jones, you have anything to say? All right. Now you will be coming back with our drawings in the not so distant future, I hope.
If God willing, I guess, with the church involved, if we are able to kind of move forward with this, we're happy to kind of come back and walk through the preliminary design set with you and take any feedback. We're interested in feedback. If this group has any feedback after our conversation now, please feel free to, I think the district manager has Willie's information. Feel free to send him an email or give us a call and we can talk it through. But yeah, we'll certainly come back and talk about that. And I'm going to talk to the architect about parking as soon as possible.
Okay. How about you, Ted? You have anything to say?
Okay, I had to unmute. Let me explain to these people. I'm Ted Weinstein. I'm Director of Bronx Planning for HPD. And Winnie Hamilton Campbell, my deputy, is on the call as well. They've said that it's very preliminary in the early stages. So I know they have not yet approached our supportive housing staff and division. If they do, we'll take into account, what they're proposing and what else is around there and close to there, just like in any other project. I guess my only real question quickly was, so this would be the entire church property, because I know it's two separate tax lots, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then just to clarify a little bit about the subway and the elevated line. So there are two things. One, anytime that you want to do construction next to an elevated track, you have to consult the MTA, to get an approval, because, if they're going to be cranes, for example, they don't want a crane crashing into the tracks. And then in addition, I think the newer requirement that was mentioned is that if you're going to be developing next to a station, then you need to consult with the MTA if they might have plans to put in some type of accessibility, such as an elevator or a escalator, because then if they do, they would require there to be an easement from the property that would allow them to do that sometime in the future. Since the Gun Hill Station already has accessibility, and I know it's been said that it doesn't work half the time, but it's there, so there really wouldn't be a concern about that. And again, just as a summary, it's, if they decide to actually buy the property and then, apply for city funding, then there would be the same kind of review that goes through every project.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Ms. Benitez, anyone else?
No,
Other
no,
questions?
nothing in the chat.
Nothing in the chat? I see all the names. We got an all-star committee here.
Hey, sorry, this is Luke again, and I know this might be controversial, but I actually don't subscribe to the I am somebody in the community who doesn't park a car or own a car, and I think we actually need to kind of transition into more efficient modes of transportation. So I personally think that there's actually the majority of people who live in the district don't own cars. So I think, we need to put our priorities of housing over car parking. But that's just my personal opinion, and I urge Well Life Network to consider that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I don't want to call myself, Luke, but it's a monumental problem in this community, and that must be first and foremost as far as the priorities concerned. It's more that than anything else. You know, we're going to have a DOT meeting very shortly, and we're working on bicycle lanes. So, you know, we're trying to do the transitional forethought. However, all right, parking is a monumental issue for all development. So it has to be treated as such, especially in the incubation stages. So just, you know,
Understood. Yep. Mhm.
be mindful of that. Okay. All right.
Hold on for a minute, Rob.
Yeah.
Sherry Tucker has a message. Um, we agree that housing is a vital need, and we understand parking is something that cannot be ignored. We will work hard to make sure we meet both as best as possible. We are very grateful for the opportunity to speak with you. Good enough, Sherry? Okay.
Well, on behalf of the community board, I want to thank you, Sherry. I want to thank you very much. You know, because that you know, all stones are covered as far as this is concerned. And if we could get the plans and come back and have this conversation again, the familiarity will, you know, it'll undaunt itself, and we can go forward in a more pleasant, you know, in a more steadily manner, so to speak. And I think that's the most important thing, because you know we got peaks and valleys, law. Okay, so you know just be mindful of that. Um, anyone else? What a silent crew tonight. You know? How about you, Miss Ortiz? Any questions, comments, suggestions, deletions? No one's talking. Okay. Listen, I want to thank you. All right. I want to thank all of you. And once again, I want to apologize for the tardiness. All right. But, you know, I want to thank all the people involved, Mr. Scott, of course. Get your throat better, Sherry. Okay. And that's really about it. You know, that being said, we can adjourn this. I have a motion to adjourn.
Oh, most everybody's on mute. Hold on. Let me unmute.
Good night. Thank you.
Yeah.
Motion seconded.
Okay, we'll end this meeting at 7:41 p.m. All right. Thank
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 you.
you
you,
so very
everybody.
much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Bob,
Thank you, Robert.
Yes.
Good night, Dr. Hall.
don't hang up.
Okay.
Rob,
Judith, go ahead.
Robert, stay on the line.
I will.